dawn patrol of the demilitarized zone, the no man's land that separates two of the world's largest armies. This was once described as the scariest place on Earth, an impenetrable barrier of minefields and tank traps. Now this curious relic of the Cold War has sprung a leak. 400 South Koreans commute through the front line each day, a surreal corridor into the hermit kingdom of North Korea. It's a startling transition from one of the world's most dynamic economies into a land of hunger and repression. The South Koreans don't get far. They're confined to a new industrial complex just north of the line. The Gaesong economic zone is the jewel in the crown of South Korea's policy of reconciliation. It's billed as a template for reunification. South Korean factories employing cheap and plentiful North Korean workers.
These textile workers are some of the 6,500 North Koreans currently employed at the complex. It's the first phase of a hugely ambitious project. The plan is to increase the workforce to 700,000 within the next few years.
The South Korean companies pay the North Korean authorities £33 a month for each employee. Managers believe the workers may only get £3 or £4 for themselves, but even that's an attractive supplement to state rations. And there's no scope for dissent in such a rigidly controlled environment. For South Korean companies, it's an opportunity to compete with cheap labour from China. Our productivity is catching up with China, says this manager. The North Koreans work very hard, and we speak the same language. So far, 11 factories are up and running, and the site has been levelled for hundreds more. But the project director, Kim Dong-gun, concedes there are formidable obstacles, not least the suspicions of the United States.
전체적인 이 공단이 안정적으로 장기적으로 안정적으로 발전하고 또 입주 기업들의 시장 확대라 그럴까 판로 확대 막 그런 측면에서는 북미 관계 개선을 포함한 그 육자 회담의 진전.
North Korea continues to defy the United States with its development of nuclear weapons. Experts believe it has enough plutonium for 7 or 8 atomic bombs. The North now refuses even to negotiate, a response, it says, to American financial sanctions.
Well, I think more and more in Washington, as there's growing support for getting tough with North Korea, they see South Korea's efforts to reach out as working at cross purposes to Washington's goal of really trying to squeeze North Korea. They see, more and more in Washington are seeing Gaesong as a lifeline for North Korea when really what Washington is trying to do is to, if not strangle the North, at least force them back to the table.
This is the hidden North Korea, off limits to outsiders. Free markets have spread across the country. A sign, says the South, that reform is possible. But the signals are mixed. The state is now trying to reassert its dominance of the economy. There's been no easing of political control. The leadership relies on an extravagant personality cult. It tries to keep the population ignorant of the outside world. Opening factories at Gaesong is a big risk. Thousands of workers are being exposed to potentially contagious ideas.
Every worker knows that if he or she says something wrong, the job will be lost and maybe even freedom will be lost. So they have to act very, very carefully. And they have a small army of supervisors, controllers, secret police officers who are monitoring everybody and everything. The problem is that all these people have brains. They are absolutely normal human beings, even if they have to pretend to be robots. And they come to conclusions they see, they compare, they listen, and they analyze.
관광이 동해 항에서 관광호를 타고 이제 그
South Korean investors are fully briefed on the sensitivities before being allowed north. A government official in Seoul warns them to avoid all difficult subjects, especially politics.
그런데요. 지난 한 해
There's nothing normal about working in such a closed society. The Southerners must leave behind their computers, mobile phones and newspapers. At a restaurant in Gaesong, officials from North and South celebrate a new agreement. But behind the smiles, there's still plenty of suspicion. The South Koreans are kept bottled up in special zones, while Chinese businessmen are allowed to roam the country. The North periodically breaks off dialogue because of perceived slights.
우리 민족끼리 이게 둘이 힘을 합쳐서 하는 거 제일 큰 장애물이 바로 미국이에요. 운행도 못 설치하게 해. 뭘 좀 첨단 설비 들어오면 그것도 바로 나 협정이요. 뭐 남쪽하고 맺은 그런 협정을 내대면서 아주 이런 게 그 소소하게 나가도록끔 말하자면 자기 그 말하자면 우도대로 우리 민족끼리 그 말하자면 자기 장단에.
A volunteer dentist from the south, part of a medical group that's trying to break down barriers at the industrial zone. The clinic is supposed to be for South Koreans only, but northern workers have been sneaking in as well. In the past, they could get into trouble. Now there's an agreement to open a joint clinic, but it's often a case of one step forward, two steps back.
자기들 입장이 있는데 우리가 그냥 마냥 도와준다 이렇게 해서 자기들이 어떤 기분을 상하게 한다든지 자존심을 상하게 할까봐 우리가 굉장히 염려가 돼요. 그래서 마음은 급하지만은 우리는 좀 길게 생각하고 천천히 신뢰관계부터 먼저 쌓아가려 그러고.
The North Korean health service is in an atrocious state. A German aid worker, Norbert Wollertson, found squalid conditions, little medicine and no anaesthetic when visiting rural hospitals 5 years ago. Most Western aid agencies have since been thrown out. The South Koreans see an opportunity.
The doctors are pressing to open a general hospital that would be open to the public here in Gaesong City. They're doing what they can to promote contact with ordinary people. North Korean officials want the medicine, but are fighting to keep interaction to a minimum.
North Korea desperately needs help, and the South is happy to oblige, anxious to prop up a regime whose collapse would mean economic ruin. It's a calculated risk for both sides. The multi-billion-dollar project is a hostage to diplomatic fortune and the vagaries of US foreign policy.